Good evening, folks. I just wanted to do a quick, as much as possible, overview of some of the basic information about Iran, specifically geography, and a little bit of background demographic information, since it seems that a lot of folks in class um, maybe might want a little bit of review from global. So I wanted to do that and put it in the context of our class as well with some specific issues that are taking place in Iran right now. So here we go. So first thing to remember, again, as I mentioned in class, Iran is the world's only theocratic republic. Um, Established in 1979, particularly after the leadership of the Ayatollah Khomeini's uh, revolution. And this quote kind of sums things up really solidly. And he says, when anyone studies a little or pays a little attention to the rules of Islamic government, Islamic politics, Islamic society, and Islamic economy, he will realize that Islam is a very political religion. Anyone who will say that religion is separate from politics is a fool. He does not know Islam or politics. And what's very important, folks, to keep in mind here is when the Ayatollah is in this quote speaking of Islam, he's speaking specifically of Shia Islam as it is practiced in Iran, because from the perspective of the Ayatollah, Shia Islam is the only correct and appropriate form of Islam. Um, so why we're looking at Iran? Iran is the world's only theocratic republic, like I mentioned earlier. Iran's constitution established a theocracy that has interwoven into the theocracy democratic political institutions, both elected and appointed. Second, Iran's political culture is a very good example of the tension that can exist between tradition, modernization, and globalization. Iran's unique among Muslim countries because it is a theocratic republic organized around the ideas and precepts of Shia Islam. There are strong parallels that you can look at when it comes to other ideologically oriented states, like such as China and China's approach to socialism with Chinese characteristics, and how China's the Chinese Communist Party's leadership with under Xi Jinping with socialism with Chinese characteristics creates a very specific government structure of an entire vertical hierarchy. In the case of Iran, the ideological underpinnings of the Iranian Islamic Revolution have guided this interwoven theocracy with a democracy. Iran has a really unique and often highly adversarial foreign policy with the United States, Israel in specific, and the world. And it's just a really, really interesting country. So, some geography and basic information. Iran is located in the Middle East between Iraq and Afghanistan. It is about, this is the next slide, about the twice the size of Texas or the same size as Alaska in the United States. Iran, as you hopefully learned about in Global, is a historical crossroads, east and west between Central Asia, Indian subcontinent, and the Middle East, and then north and south between the Arabian Peninsula in the south and the Caucasus Mountains in Russia or former Soviet Union in the north. That because of Iran's position, Iran historically was very vulnerable to outside invaders, um, Islamic Arab groups, Ottoman Turks, and then later Indo-European colonization in the early 1900s. Um, like I mentioned before, Iran is slightly larger than Alaska. It's approximately twice the size of Texas. A majority of the territory and land is arid and inhospitable to agriculture. Um, There'll be a statistic later, but the majority of Iran's population, over 70%, lives in an urban area. Seventh largest oil producer in the world. Comparatively, Nigeria is 15th, Mexico is 12th, Russia is 3rd, and China is 5th. So right behind Russia and China when it comes to oil production, the United States, by the way, folks, is the #1 oil producer in the world. In OPEC, uh, Iran is the 4th largest oil producer. Mexico is 8th, Nigeria is 9th, and Russia is 2nd. The reason that those stars or pluses are next to the Russia and Mexico is that they are considered OPEC plus countries, which means they are not original founding members of OPEC, but they follow the price guidelines that are set by OPEC. Again, primarily urbanized, partially industrialized. I was wrong, not over 70%, but 68% of people live in urban centers. 70% of the labor force is employed either in industry or in a service sector job. As I mentioned earlier, OPEC plus countries are involved in OPEC initiatives, but Iran is not OPEC plus. Iran is a founding member of OPEC. Total population approximately 91 million as of 2023. The median age is 34 to 39. That means the median age consists of people born after the end of the Iran-Iraq War in 1988. Tehran has about 9 to 10 million people, so approximately the same size population as New York City and the greater New York area. 75% of Iran's population are in urban areas and cities. 76% of the population lives on only 27% of the land. So majority of the land is arid. 95% of the population identifies as Shia Muslim. Globally, that is only 10 to 13% of the total Muslim population. Globally, Sunni Islam dominates. In Iran, there are also very small minorities of people who identify as Zoroastrian, Jewish, or Christian. Those are the only officially recognized religious minorities. There is an additional religious minority, the Baha'i, live in Iran and globally, but in Iran, Baha'i are specifically targeted as heretics by the government and persecuted. 53% of the population speak Farsi as a primary language. That's mostly being spoken in the northern provinces and in the north around the areas of Tehran and its surrounding provinces. The rest of the country, we've got a mix of other languages connected to people's different ethnic backgrounds. And since 1979, there was a very successful literacy campaign. 90% of the population reads and speaks Farsi, and Farsi is the national language. Population demographics. Okay, so here we have on the right the current population pyramid of Iran. I want you to pay very close attention to what is right here, because this is the median age of 34 to 39. Iran has the second youngest population of the in the AP6. I'm giving you the ages 36 as the total, maybe more exact median. But the government is dominated by men over the age of 55. If you look here, the number of the population over the age of 55 is disproportionately small when compared to the rest of the Iranian population. Just some quick comparisons in terms of demographics. Nigeria has the lowest median age at approximately 18 years old. Nigeria has an incredibly young and very quickly growing population. Mexico, median age is approximately 30. UK, Russia, and China, the median age is approximately 40 years old. Do remember, this is especially important if you're taking the exam, the United Kingdom has the highest population of people over the age of 65 in the AP6 proportional to its total population. So 18% of the total population in the UK is over the age of 65. In Russia, it's only 14%, China 11%, Mexico 7%, and Nigeria only 2%. Reason that I'm emphasizing this is it's really important when you think about the UK, it being a established liberal democracy and its policies are going to continue to be focused on the needs and goals of an older population in comparison to the other AP6. The United States, as a quick aside, is just behind the UK actually at 16%, but we are the third highest in total number of people globally when it comes to people over the age of 65 at 53 million. So right behind China and India in terms of numbers of people over the age of 65. Government policies on population are really important in Iran. After the 1979 revolution, the government encouraged births due to the high death rate among Iranian men during the war with Iraq. After the war ended, in order to address future issues of having a large, young, very rapidly growing population, the government of Iran encouraged birth control. So the state, knowing it wasn't going to be able to support this rapidly growing population, there was going to be would be eventual problems with jobs and people having access to jobs, problems with the economy, problems with infrastructure and education. Iran set about a specific birth control policy, and the government actually even had its own condom factory. Since the 2000s, the Iranian government has reversed this policy and is again encouraging large families. Just really quickly, I'm going to give you a comparison here between Iran and the UK for you to think about. So, like for you to consider when you look at this, what future problems for Iran might be represented in this population pyramid. Again, think about this in terms of what it means to have a government where the people running the government over the age of 55, but people who are experiencing the policies of the government are very much a majority younger than 55. Um, Also, something important to consider is why would Iran be promoting population growth despite having increased challenges with social unrest and protests? On that one, you can think about that maybe in an international context, the challenge of governance, of having too much power in the hands of too few, and also you need to have younger people get into government. Just a quick comparison with the United Kingdom, folks, so you can see the difference in shape. Okay. Um, the key kind of data here, right, is that the United Kingdom has over a quarter of the population over the age of 60 versus Iran with about 16% of the population over the age of 60. So two things to consider. These are things that typically very much come up on the exam, are what future problems the UK might need to address. Future problems being a rapidly aging population, the needs of social programs, um, especially medical care and health care, the problems of taxation when you have a rapidly older or significantly older population, then that means you often have to tax the younger population more heavily in order to pay for these social programs that the older population needs and wants, like healthcare, because healthcare is very expensive. And the current Labor government right now is trying to address these problems because there is a great deal of austerity measures or cutting of programs related to healthcare that happened in the National Health Service or NHS. But the Labor Party is in a difficult position of we can't cut, but the budget doesn't fit, and we have a population that has lots of needs. So I mention this again specifically because it often comes up on the exam, but this is a really key comparison between the UK and Iran, and multiple things to consider about demographics with this. And there, folks, is the boomer line, just so you know where the United States lies in relation to these two countries. 20% of the US population is 60 years of age and older, and we have obviously the highest number of these three countries of 71.2 million people. Okay, did come up in class as well. We weren't completely clear on the difference between people who identify as Sunni versus people who identify as Shia. Sunni Muslims, between 1.7 and 1.9 billion people identify as Sunni. In comparison, we're looking at approximately 96 million people who identify as Shia. Majority of people who identify as Shia are in Iran, 90 to 95%. The rest of the population who identifies as Shia are in Iraq, Azerbaijan, Bahrain, as well as Lebanon. I want you to kind of cue into the fact that Iraq, Bahrain, and Azerbaijan are also Shia majority countries, but not necessarily with the same type of Shia Muslim observance that is in Iran. Sunni, be roughly Sunni Muslim, the term can be roughly translated as the people or the followers of tradition, versus Shia Muslims or Shi'a, the partisans or followers of Ali, who was Muhammad's son-in-law. The big difference between Sunni and Shia Muslims is that there's the key focus of Shia Muslims on theocratic governance. So in Sunni Islam, members of the community who are prominent members of this community, or in the case of modern democracies, we have universal suffrage, should be selecting new leaders. New leaders should have qualities such as piety, wisdom, leadership competence, and throughout all of the Muslim world, actually including Iran, Sunni Muslim leaders had the most influence. In Shia Islam, go back to the concept that you talked about in class of Velayat Faqih, or juris guardianship. And the concept here is that you have familial ties in for people who are in leadership that can be traced back to Muhammad or key imams and religious leaders in the very beginning origin period of Islam being established as a religion. And in Iran specifically, the type of Shiism that is observed is referred to as Twelver Shiism. And the idea there is that there is a 12th Imam or 12th significant religious leader who is not yet visible, who's concealed, who will be revealed when we are in the end times, and he will return to establish peace and redeem Islam. That means establish Islam as it is currently practiced in Iran at this time globally. Sunni Islam, again, overwhelming majority. Shia Islam, very much a minority compared to Sunni. And it's been a real challenge, or one of the key areas of challenge that's guided a lot of Iran's foreign policy decisions, and that is Iran's isolation when it comes to religion and form of government as a theocratic republic. I hope that has been helpful.